Good day, everyone. I hope you're all doing absolutely splendidly. I know I am, because we're now in a studio, aren't we, Josh?
Yeah, it's a big change. Firstly, meeting in person, and also being more professional in a studio as well, which is nice.
I'd hardly call both of us professional, but yeah, we are Two Maesters. And well, here we are, and welcome to another episode of Comics 101, everyone, where we delve into the world of fantasy and all things comic book related. Today's episode is about House of the Dragon, and we are calling this series Two Maesters. Me, Morgan, and my glamorous assistant Josh. How you doing, Josh?
Good, thanks. Was drenched ridiculously amounts, like getting into the train station from work drenched, then leaving the train station drenched, then going home drenched. Just thankfully that the rain has stopped in London. And as you probably know, we're both Londoners, both based in the UK, so we do talk about the weather a lot.
Yeah, exactly. We have nothing else to talk about apart from House of the Dragon and Rings of Power, maybe. But yeah, great to be here, man. That episode 3. What were your initial thoughts?
I think my first initial thought was like, yeah, so what I said at the end of the last podcast episode literally started.
What did you say?
That basically the Daemon would just ride in with his dragon and then burn and set.
Spoilers! But yeah, sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, so literally he burns everything on the coast, everyone there. But the thing that surprised me was that I thought that it would just be like burn everyone and they'd just be like vanished and they would be defeated. But the fact that they were smart enough to then go hide into the caves.
Spoilers! Yeah, definitely going to be spoilers right now. But yeah, and that war of attrition, how the Pirate King, the Crab Feeder, what a name, basically was winning against them, despite being just a bunch of pirates on a rock. And they're the like strongest, most powerful, wealthiest house in Westeros fighting against them with dragons. Yeah. How did they survive that long? It's mental.
Yeah. And like, even like later on in the episode, you start to see like the divergence between the two best friends who we saw in episode 1, who actually were really, really close, that we potentially saw that could there be a romance between the both of them. It seems like now with Princess Rhaenyra, it's like she's now pushed her to the side and is like, no, you betrayed me, you stabbed me in the back.
Yeah.
And technically she hasn't done anything. And like even that court scene, I think, which is really, really good, the way that they portrayed like the women of court and the way they just sit around and they talk and they're gossiping, that she's still stuck up for her. And I think the episode...
I don't remember that scene. But this is why I need to watch every episode twice before we go on the show. I only watched it once. But yeah, as you were saying.
And the fact that when the other women in court were basically making fun of her, saying that, oh, she's not as womanly as everybody else and that she'll be married off to someone, that she actually like stuck up for her and stuck up for also Prince Daemon as well. Because they were like, isn't Prince Daemon, why can't he get this over and done with? Not realizing that war can't be just won by the click of your fingers. It's actually a long, gruel process. And I think this was an episode which kind of like redeemed the king a bit. Like the first 2 episodes was kind of like this guy is potentially a douchebag for spoilers here.
Quite the douchebag in episode 1, but yeah, they try and paint him in a more favorable picture in episode 2, and I think in this one as well, like you really see him struggling with the prison that is being a king.
Yeah.
And you know, there's that scene where Rhaenyra's talking to Kristen Cole, the knight, and he's like, a great many people would love to be in your place. And Rhaenyra's like, yeah, but at least you're free, whilst I'm not free. I have to marry someone. I have all these duties and responsibilities. You know, you feel a bit of sympathy for the royal family of Westeros there, despite all the wealth and lavishness they live in. It's quite an interesting insight, I thought.
Yeah. And I think the fact that you really got what her father was saying, that she has to marry to solidify her reign.
Yeah.
and that because she's a woman, because Westeros won't see her as their legitimate ruler, because she is.
Oh my God.
I know the times, eh?
I know.
That she needed to marry someone who is powerful to therefore legitimize their claim.
Yeah, like the Lannisters, for example. I can't remember their names, but they're twins. One of them that was kind of like trying to chat her up, saying, "Oh, I can build you a dragon's lair and stuff in Casterly Rock."
Like, he must be some shades of arrogant to just be like, "Yeah, I've got all the gold that you would want," and not even to start like, "Oh, hey, how are you? Yeah, you might be interested. Let's go for a walk." It's basically, he was saying like, "Yeah, I've got all this money, and that's why you should marry me. So marry me."
yeah. Wow, what great shut up game, honestly. Yeah, it's basically like flexing his American Express card, pretty much.
Yeah,
like, yeah, and it was cool seeing some more of like the Westeros families introduced into the mix. Like the Lannisters were quite welcome because they're always seen as like schemers in the Game of Thrones world. So again, Lannisters doing what they do best, and also weirdly enough, being two twins as well, like Cersei and Jaime.
Yeah, and they do say that twins is genetic. So then,
and I know what we're both thinking. Just like Jaime and Cersei, are these two twins also banging each other as well? We can only guess. Oh my God. We'll find out soon.
That is true. And I think like the ending scene of the episode with Prince Daemon, like, I actually thought that he was going to surrender to spite his brother.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, is he really gonna surrender to be like, you know what, screw you, I'm gonna surrender, and then you're gonna have to come here and sort this shit out anyway.
Oh, out of spite.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because the fact that the messenger came and was like, oh, and the fact that the letter was like, "Oh, dear brother, I know we've had our differences, but I support you.
Oh,
and I'll send money and men to help you." And he's just like beating the shit out of the guy. He's like, and literally had to be restrained, because like I was like, okay, then yeah, he's hit him once, he's hit him twice, he's hit him 4 times,
he just kept
5, 6. Someone at least stop him.
Yeah, you could tell he was frustrated. Like everyone there, the Velaryons, Daemon, because it just was like a war of attrition. I've got to admit, like, one thing I really love in House of Dragon, I suppose in Game of Thrones, is the costume design. It's amazing. Like the Velaryons looked fucking sick in those outfits. Oh my God. Yeah. Like their armor, the whole design, the whole uniforms, so cool. Yeah. Like I couldn't fault them for that. And again, really cool characters. And what was the name of Velarion's son who's riding the dragon?
Oh, I've even forgotten. Yeah, and because I remember thinking that they also have dragons themselves, and I was like,
they do.
Would we see it within the TV series, or would they just hold the dragons to just the Targaryen family? But it's good to see that they are sticking to the books and also the lore that George R. R. Martin has put in place. That the House Velaryon has dragons as well, as they are a house of from Valyria.
Yeah, it's cool. But the interesting thing is, you remember in episode 2 when Corlys Velaryon's like, we never had dragons. We had to scratch out our wealth, grit and luck on the sea, because that's the thing about Velaryons. They are the naval leaders of Westeros, and that's how he's represented on the King's Council.
Yeah.
And they've never had dragons, but now they do because of the marriage between the queen that never was and Corlys Velaryon. And the dragon's called Sea Smoke, which is a interesting name. Can't really think of a sea smoking, but whatever. And then there was something else that I wanted to point out. Oh yeah, so with the dragons, I've realized this as well. They've combined 2 dragons. So this is something that's in the book, but this is something that's different in the TV show from the book. Okay. So Caraxes that Daemon rides is actually the bloodworm from the book. I know, super nerd moment. No one cares, but I just want to point this out. It's a red dragon, the bloodworm. That's why it's called that way in the books. And also they call it a worm because it's got a really long neck. Yeah. You see Daemon's dragon. Hopefully maybe we can get an image up for our viewers. Daemon's dragon has like the longest bloody neck I've ever seen.
Yeah. that's what I was like. Are they going to make? Because when I saw the dragon, I was like, are they going to make them like more snake-like? Are they going to make them like more snake-like when it comes to dragons? Or are they actually going to make them look like actual dragons, like the other ones that you see in the series?
Yeah, that's true. Because I think there's like dragons and wyvern. Like, okay, I don't know my like ancient folklore that well, but wyverns and dragons look very similar.
Yeah,
like a dragon, its wings are like separate from its legs, I think. Whilst wyverns, the wings are part of its two front legs. Please don't quote me on that, though. I literally know nothing about dragons.
I think that is it. And I think that, the main difference is that dragons breathe fire, wyverns don't. But I think in some, like, lore books, wyverns can spit venom or acid. And to your point, wyverns are never as big as dragons either.
Oh, really? Okay, fair enough. So, yeah, these are definitely dragons. I mean, if they've been calling them dragons throughout the entire show, I could probably have trusted that. Yeah. I would say, like, thinking about this show, it felt almost like two different episodes because you had pretty much no action from the start until the very end when it just takes you over into the stepstones. It just dives you in to a massive, like, scene of fighting and dragons. But for a lot of the rest of the episode, there's a lot more character development, a lot more talking. But, this is the start of the series. Like, I said that about the second episode as well, more of a character development episode. This one, you can see it's slowly starting to transition, trying to get more action in there, but towards the end, like a little cherry on top.
Yeah.
Some like really good scenes. The White Heart. So when the king finds the White Heart, which is a deer and with antlers, what do you call them?
Stag, yeah.
A stag, yeah. The king just stabs it, kills it in a very like, I don't know, undignified way. And you see the king's just not happy. Like he's really in pieces about what he's doing as king. And then when Rhaenyra and Kristen Cole come across that stag and he's about to draw his sword, and she's like, no.
Bull, yeah.
Oh yeah, another boar. But then you remember the stag does come and see them as well. Yeah, the boar was funny. It was like, oh, she's gonna get mauled to death by a boar.
And the fact that if you think about it, the season 1 of Game of Thrones, what happens in that one?
Yeah, exactly. Robert Baratheon. I guess there's like a reference to it. Yeah. Also,
and I think it was in the Kingswood as well that he went to as well. That he
got mauled by a boar. Oh no! Spoilers. If you haven't seen season 1 of Game of Thrones right now and you're listening to this podcast, you need to change your life.
Yeah.
Speaking to you, our audience members. Also a symbolic thing there as well. The stag versus the dragon as well. What does that sound like to you from season 1? Yeah. Exactly. Robert Baratheon versus Rhaegar. Although you don't see that in series 1 of Game of Thrones, that is what happens. And I feel like there's some interesting symbology there.
Yeah. And I think like it also brings into like debate, like hunting in the Middle Ages, the fact that everyone did the work, not the king, but the king gets the credit for killing the stag, which was tied up for him to just stab, and then
I know bullshit.
I know, and I think he didn't. And as you said, he wasn't really interested in it, but to appease his people, he has to show interest because that's the type of thing that they enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And I think it's like
Red and Games.
And I think it's like part of the things that I think one of the best parts of the episode was like his argument with Rhaenyra when he's like in the tent where he's like, I have to do that I don't want to even effing do anyway.
Yeah, even I'm not above duty and responsibility.
Yeah.
I've got to admit, I love the acting from those two. Like, holy shit, fucking great actors. What's his name? Paddy Considine? I've always just known him as the guy from the Simon Pegg and Nick Frost movies, like Hot Fuzz, The World's End. He's in Pride as well. What a great actor. And is it Millie Wilcock, I think her name is?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, one of our audience members can probably correct me. Great actor as well. I think just all around. Oh, and I mean, we haven't even spoken about Matt Smith yet.
Yeah,
He steals the show as Daemon. Yeah. Like, one thing I kept seeing pop up online on like social media was how Matt Smith basically says, I think one thing at the start of this episode, like I can't remember the actual name of the crab feeder, but he's like, crab feeder, where are you? Well, you're trying to burn him out. And then he gets shot by arrow and flies off. throughout the rest of it, he doesn't say anything. Even when I think he comes back, when he flies back, they're all like arguing, and a messenger gives him the thing from his brother, and he starts beating the crap out of him. I don't think he actually says anything in that.
I think you're right. I don't think he says, unless he says something small. He doesn't say anything. Like it's Corus Valerian, and I think that's his brother who's with him. They're basically discussing the men can't take this S anymore. Yeah. Literally, they've been at this for I think for 2 years at least.
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah, I forgot how much time flew by.
Because she wasn't pregnant with the child when they left to go fight the crab feeder. So yeah,
spoilers. I love it how you can see me push that button every time as well. You're like, oh, God damn it, he's doing it again.
So I think like it's the fact that they've been at it for years. And I think it's just like, for me, it's like what he did was 1, badass, 2, risky as hell.
Yeah.
And 3, I was one of the things I was thinking was like, how on earth did he not think about this like earlier? Like, I think the thing with Damon is that I think he is a person who's very good under pressure. And I think that's what his brother isn't.
Yeah.
Because, like, he knew that the clock was ticking, that, his brother is going to bring in 2,000 extra men. He's going to bring in gold so that his brother will then take the victory from him. And then everyone remember, Prince Damon was supposed to take out the crab feeder and he left us languishing. Yeah. The king came and saved us. And he was like, I need to end this now.
It's also very stubborn as well.
Yeah, hella stubborn.
Yeah. I don't need any help. I'm going to do it right now.
Like when he was running and they were firing the arrows, I was like, is this guy crazy?
Yeah, that was pretty badass. I mean, I've got to admit, like, I know it's a fantasy show, but the guy did take 2 arrows in the chest, and that's his body armor protected him from that. And he took an arrow to the knee, which, was it to the knee or to the foot?
I think possibly to the knee, yeah.
That is such a Skyrim reference. Please tell me you played Skyrim back in the day. That was all over like the internet. I used to be really brave until I took an arrow to the knee.
I used to be an adventurer just like you until I took an arrow to the knee. I think they even used it like in Game of Thrones as well. I think they did one for like Jorah Mormont to make fun of how the way that Jon Snow took his woman, like, I used to have a woman just like yours, I took her into the knee.
Oh yeah, you gotta send me that meme, honestly. Yeah, and he takes an arrow to the knee. He's got possibly 2 arrows puncturing his chest, and then like he sees the crab feeder slowly. What do crabs do when they walk? They like waddle.
Yeah.
Towards into his cave, and he's still just running, like 2 arrows in the chest, 1 arrow in the knee or the foot, and he just comes out of that cave dragging his, what do you call it when you cut
torso?
Someone off?
The thing is, torso is his head and his arms are still attached. So you're like, he either has some sharp sword that can just cleave someone in half, or he literally hacked him to pieces.
You can see the intestines like dangling. That was just like so brutal. I was like, they couldn't make this episode any more like violent. You see someone get a nail through their hand. You see a stag get killed, which
and
arguably viewers might find more emotional than watching a man.
Yeah. And like even the fact the guy who got the nail through his hand then got stamped on by a freaking dragon that he thought was going to save him.
Save me!
I was like, literally, like, how could you think he was going to?
Oh my God. Damon.
like, how did you think that he was going to he's going to just jump off his dragon, take out the nail, pick you up, put you on the back of the dragon, take you?
Yeah, well, he probably wasn't thinking straight.
True.
Guy's been nibbled at by crabs. Yeah, thing I want to point out, so you say that Damon must have had like a really sharp sword. I think he does. I think he's got Dark Sister, which is like a Valyrian steel blade. And for all you nerds out there, and all you non-nerds who have stopped listening, because you can't be asked to hear this, the Valyrian steel is like magical metal from old Valyria that basically never needs to be sharpened, is really tough and really light.
And I think it also can kill White Walkers the same way that fire, I think, is it called fire glass?
Dragon glass.
Dragon glass, yeah.
Spoilers!
Yeah. So, and I think like you actually see in that whole depiction, like, one, that how much discipline his dragon must have that literally that it burned everyone around him, but not him as well.
Oh, what, when Daemon was being surrounded?
Yeah. Like,
actually, but that was Sea Smoke, though.
Oh, yeah, that was Sea Smoke.
With, I can't remember, Corley's son on it.
Yeah.
But even still, I mean, like, it'd be pretty easy to accidentally burn Daemon. Can you imagine? They just, like, they accidentally roasted. Oh, mind you, but he is Blood of the Dragon, and I swear, or maybe it was just an Aries, but they don't feel heat, do they? They don't burn.
Yeah.
Because, like, in the beginning, first episode, Emma was in having, like, a bath or something. And Viserys was like, don't they know dragons don't feel heat?
But then you know how Daenerys' older brother, when they put like the spoilers though, the molten gold on his head, like if he couldn't feel fire, it wouldn't have hurt as much. But maybe she's special because they kept on saying that she was like the reincarnation of the like we mentioned in the last episode, the reincarnation of the guy who defeated the White Walkers, and that's why she can't be hurt by fire.
But who was the guy who defeated the
something Azahai?
Oh, yeah, the Lord of Light.
And that
Rollo, yeah.
And that she was the living, brand new living incarnation of that, and that's why she couldn't be hurt by fire.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I guess that could be out. I'll have to rewatch Game of Thrones now. Maybe. But then I feel like, so with this thing about it being A Song of Fire and Ice, which is the name of the books, and then in the House of Dragon, by the way, this is not in Fire and Blood, the book about, well, which this show is partly about, this Song of Fire and Ice. And if she's the Song of Fire, then is Jon Snow ice, and why is he ice? Because he's Targaryen as well, so surely he's also fire. And I thought he was the Lord of Light, to be honest, because he was fighting the White Walkers, but now we're talking about Game of Thrones, and we're here to talk about House of Dragon, and possibly Rings of Power. Who knows? I could go into that, but it was good. But what do you think is going to happen in the next episode?
I think what's going to happen is there's going to be tension between Daemon and the king, because Daemon's going to come back and triumphant, and everyone who went to the battle is going to be like, did you see... And tell everyone in King's Landing, all over the Seven Kingdoms, when they go back to their homes, oh, did you see what Daemon did? He literally went out by himself, and then as the stories grow, he killed 50 men, he killed 60 men, he killed 100 men, and then it'll kind of like, people be like, oh, so maybe he isn't that bad off as being a king. Maybe he's the king we need. He can fight. He's on the battlefield. And then it'll like bring in tensions there. And then
compared to Viserys, who's perceived as being weak. So,
and then the question is, will that then bring in, with that victory, does that then bring him back into the court and then back into court favor, which will then like throw gas onto the fire of the situation with everything in King's Landing? Like he comes back in with Corlys Velaryon as his right hand man because he's basically helped him out. And now he has a legitimate claim to the throne.
Yeah.
And then he's now seeing that slip away with now the birth of the king's son. And also that the queen, the new queen, is also pregnant again. And spoilers here.
Spoilers! Properly.
She has 3 other children. So the child that she's going to give birth to is most likely another boy. So how is he going to react to the fact that he is no longer in the picture to be heir to the Iron Throne?
Exactly, and then how's that going to work with Rhaenyra, who's got her own thing to worry about?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not really going to say anything because I've read the books and I know what happens, so I'm not going to push the spoiler button because you don't need to worry this time, viewers. I'm not going to spoil anything, apart from the White Walkers coming back. But yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I think what will happen is he'll come back and he will be very respected by like the small folk and everything, and the king can't ignore that. I'm not going to say any more because I really do know what's going on and what's going to happen, but oh, damn it hurts. I've got so much to say.
I know. And it's like you don't want to ruin it for the audience by telling them everything that's going to happen, but I think the way that they are doing it is that they are taking a slower pace to it.
Yeah, it's quite I'm just trying to think of like the first season of Game of Thrones, because there were episodes that were quite slow. I do feel like House of Dragons is like somewhat slow. Like I remember telling you, I showed episode 1 and 2 to a flatmate of mine who dabbled a little bit in Game of Thrones but never watched it all. And they said it's just a bit slow for me. I mean, I love it because I'm a nerd. I've read all the books, and I don't mind that. But maybe to new people who are starting off on House of the Dragons and haven't seen Game of Thrones, might be a bit different. And like you look at the Rotten Tomato, I always love looking at Rotten Tomato reviews. House of the Dragons currently on 85%. Critics review, and then I think it's like also an 85% audience review. Well, that's for comparison. Rings of Power is on an 84% critics review and a 33% audience review, which I think is a very unfair audience review. I think Rings of Power is actually decent.
I was talking to someone at work about it, and I was like, the issue with like Rings of Power, and we're going to bring this into the
we're changing what we're talking about, folks.
And if you like this content, we'll have a Rings of Power episode.
Give us an upvote if you want us to do Rings of Power.
I think the issue with like Rings of Power is that everyone loves Lord of the Rings because it's like Peter Jackson's thing. It's his thing. It's his baby. Because I remember when they tried to get, I've forgotten what his name, I've forgotten his first name, but Del Toro was supposed to do the director.
Guillermo Del Toro, yeah.
He was supposed to do the Hobbit films, but fans were like, no, we don't want him. We want Peter Jackson back. And then Peter Jackson was like, no, but he's a really good director. He's Oscar winning. And the fans were like, no, we want you back. And I think for this one, he wanted to help, but I think it was like Tolkien's estate. So the people who own the rights to Lord of the Rings, who basically said that, no, your films, TV series, separate. You're not going to have any connection, so therefore you can't help out on this. So I think the issue is that...
Oh, that's amazing. So he lost control. Like, just couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, and I think it's that everyone sees like Lord of the Rings through the lens of Peter Jackson. But people see Game of Thrones through the lens of George R.R. Martin. And because he's still alive, you can't say his adaptation of what his book should look like is wrong.
You're right. But then also with the final series of Game of Thrones, part of the reason why everyone hated it is because the two writers / directors had to rush it. And they were asked by George R.R. Martin. They also asked by the studio to... do more seasons. We beg you, do more seasons. But they were just like, no, sorry, we got to go work on Star Wars or whatever.
Oh, like, that was a shambles. Literally, well, we're going to go off and go to this multi-million-dollar contract with Disney, and we're going to do some Star Wars films similar to Game of Thrones, and then somehow that then went up into now we're back again to do House of the Dragon. And
wait, are they on the script for House of the Dragon as well?
I think they might.
Hang on, I'm going to.
I think they might be, but also they're also involved. I think in the other stuff that's coming out of the Game of Thrones Song of Ice and Fire universe.
Oh yeah, because there are some spin-offs. So I sent you like it was like a poster thing. They're going to do so many. There's going to be a Jon Snow one. Yeah. There's going to be. I heard there was going to be an Arya Stark one. Weirdly enough, that wasn't on that poster, but I have heard there's going to be an Arya Stark one.
I think there is going to be one about Robert's Rebellion as well, just because it is such a key point in the Game of Thrones universe.
True, and everyone would like to see a young Eddard Stark, because he's just caught. I don't really know what to type in. Producers of House of the Dragon, same as Game of Thrones. I don't even know their names. Like David Benioff. David Benioff. Right. House of the Dragon? I don't even know they were writers. I thought maybe they were producers. Have no involvement. David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, I don't know how you pronounce it, have no involvement with House of the Dragon. Thank God.
Okay.
We're going to have the final season of this show, whenever that will be, will hopefully not be rushed.
Yeah. And funny enough, that's why George R.R. Martin hasn't released any other books, because he doesn't want to rush it at all. And I think I was like listening to an interview, and he was like, at the time when they were asking, was like, Lost, the TV series, which was really a big hit. For those who don't know about Lost, I think at one period it was the biggest show in the United States, as in it was big. Yeah. Lost, I think like the first 3 seasons, it was the biggest show in coming out of the United States, and it was really...
Oh my God.
And it was really popular here, and I think the way that they ended it was like it didn't make sense whatsoever. And spoilers here, you had
spoilers.
You had like people. You had like a world where they didn't get on the plane. You had a world where they did get on the plane, and then you had a world, I think, where all of them, when the ones that did get on the plane, went to this like heaven type thing at the end of the TV series. And like it didn't make any sense. So George R. R. Martin was like, yeah, they rushed that, and I don't want to rush my books because I want it to be the best thing ever, because that is his legacy. Like because I think to him it's like when he moves on, that's his legacy. Like C.S. Lewis's legacy is the Chronicles of Narnia. You've Tolkien's legacy is Lord of the Rings. Like J.K. Rowling, her legacy is Harry Potter, and that is what people are going to remember them for. Like, and if it goes awfully, like he writes the books and it's not in, I'm not going to say not like what fans want, but it isn't up to the scratch of writing that he has been producing, then it's kind of like people will be like, oh, so we waited this long for this.
For this bullshit. Yeah. But I think there's an advantage to George R. R. Martin and also the people that make Game of Thrones - House of the Dragon - Arya spin-off - Jon Snow spin-off - probably many spin-offs that are they're going to milk the series dry.
They will.
Because, like things like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, they're recreating something. I know they're making something new, but they're using that franchise. They've got to include some of the old characters, or they've got to do these references and stuff. And I feel like when you reinvent a show or a movie series that was out ages ago, you're always going to have people who are going to be disappointed because expectations are always going to be too high. There's going to be mega nerds. There's going to be people who are like anti-woke and potentially racist, potentially sexist, who are just not going to like it at all. Yeah. Whilst with Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, because they're not remaking anything, essentially there's less for people to pick at, maybe. But I guess there might be some diehard Game of Thrones fans who are like, ooh, this is an inconsistency in House of the Dragon. Like, for example, I pointed out that thing about the bloodworm dragon in the book. I love the show, okay? I'm not picking anything out, I'm just saying.
Yeah, and like
his dragon's called Bloodworm.
And like even to your point, I think the issue is that nostalgia hasn't kicked in Game of Thrones. They haven't allowed, and I think the Lord of the Rings has nostalgia. Like Star Wars has nostalgia, but I think the thing with like you're starting to see it like with Marvel. Marvel's starting to get nostalgia. Like, oh, the old Captain America 2, Winter Soldier, Thor 3.
Because the new bloody Marvel films have been garbage. I saw the new Thor movie. What was it? Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny, but it's trying too hard. Like, it really worked with Thor Ragnarok, that whole comedy. They're moving to like a comedy style superhero movie because just people are like superhero fatigued. There's always a big battle between superhero and a big boss, and that superhero always wins. So let's make it comedy based. But then they found that worked with Thor Ragnarok, and I really like that movie. But Love and Thunder, they're just trying a little too hard.
Yeah, and I think people were saying that it was just missing Loki, because Loki in all the 4 Thor films, like Loki adds this element, and I think. One of the things I think I'm looking forward to the most, like also like with the next Black Panther movie, with like Namor, who's the King of Atlantis, how they're going to bring him into it, and also spoilers here, we're talking about Marvel.
We're testing out the studio. I'm happy to like get our money's worth, on this run. Let's talk about anything. Go on.
The fact that you're going to have like Kang the Conqueror, who's going to be brought into like the MCU, but I think the key thing is that what I want to see is when Loki meets Thor, and the fact that it's not the Thor that he knows that died and was killed by Thanos. It is the Loki. It was a Loki who was changed because he was forced to change because of everything. I know that show was amazing. Yeah, like I think the acting was very good in it. The twists and turns.
But what if Thor, instead of being reunited with his Loki, is reunited with Crokey, the crocodile one? There's a chance of that,
Yeah. Or even the fact, or even the female Loki. Like, how would that?
Imagine Thor like also is attracted to the female Loki. Yeah. Oh, that'd be weird.
Yeah, that would be hella weird.
Almost Game of Thrones, a bit of weird incest from another dimension. from another reality. Is that even incest? I don't know. And I don't want to think about it. And I'm sure audience don't want to as well.
Yeah. So back onto House of the Dragon. I think to your point that I think they are going to take it slow. And I think the good thing that they have is that they know the story. The story has a beginning, middle, and an end to it because George R. R. Martin has written it. So there's no like guesswork. So now all they need to do is decide how quickly we're going to get to the end and how much stuff are we going to put in between to build out the season.
Yeah. I'll see, because I feel like, I don't know how many episodes are going to be in this series, because it is, again, it's only a part of the book. I'd say maybe like 1/4 of Fire and Blood, whilst the rest of Fire and Blood is like the other Targaryens before it. But this is like, I think he's like the second to last Targaryen family sort of timeline you hear, and then there's another one after this, which I'm not going to talk about. But it doesn't end at the start of Game of Thrones, so there's potential for the TV show, because I think they've announced 4 seasons.
Yeah,
and I wonder just how far they can go with this timeline. I wonder if they're going to just keep going, or if George R. R. Martin is secretly writing another sequel, a sequel to Fire and Blood, i.e. House of the Dragon, and just still not writing the bloody Game of Thrones series. Damn it. The Song of Fire and Ice. Like, what the hell, dude?
I think, like, because it's House of the Dragon, I think they've played their cards perfectly, because they could just basically be like, okay, this story is season 1. The next story about the Targaryens is season 2. The next story is season 3. And I think, like, and you can even have, like, they could even go back in time, because you've seen it in TV series where they've had a series which is before the series before it. Which,
give me an example.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, audience, I think the TV series Fargo.
Oh, I haven't seen that, but I love the Coen Brothers movie. I
think, so the TV series, I think some of the seasons, later seasons, are before the first season, as in like in time. But I think, and also I think because they're not connected, they're different places with different people, which it kind of is with House of the Dragon. It's the same location, but if they do like a story or a part of the book for each individual season, it will be just the same place, but very different people.
That would be cool, actually. So if season 2 was actually one of the families before, so it doesn't actually like, they do a prologue, not prologue, a prequel. Yeah, they could do that. That would be a really weird, interesting way
to do it. Yeah, and if they do like season 2 is a focus on Aegon taking over all of Westeros.
That would be so cool to see, like especially with Balerion the Dread, which is because if you notice, the dragons in this are huge compared to the dragons in Game of Thrones, and like, if you look at scale, because this is how I spend my free time, looking at scales of dragons that don't even exist from a fantasy world. Huge, and Balerion the Dread is the largest of them all, and like I'd need to show our audience members, but Google the dragon scales, the dragon scale bar size scale bar from Game of Thrones, if you have nothing better to do.
Because like I remember looking at it, and now going back to the Lord of the Rings universe, like the fact that some of them are like bigger in Lord of the Rings were like so big that they were bigger than mountains that they couldn't even fly.
What, dragons?
Yeah, like some of the dragons in Lord of the Rings, like in the early periods, not in the like Lord of the Rings story, but in the Middle Earth universe, like Tolkien wrote like they were bigger than mountains and could lay waste to whole regions, and like they were that big that they were too big to fly.
That's just aliens by that point, because how could they exist in the atmosphere of, assume Middle Earth is like a spherical planet, but then I don't know, we'll see. And that guy who landed down, crashed that meteor, definitely Gandalf. Defo Gandalf.
Yeah,
Gandalf.
It is Gandalf, yeah.
But we really do need to do a spin-off show about that. Not spin-off of this. Maybe we should do a prequel for our Comics 101 Two Maesters thing. We'll talk about.
Yeah. We could say 2 rings, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
2 hobbits.
Yeah, there you go. 2 hobbits. There you go. Yeah, that could work. I feel like me and you do have a Samwise Gamgee and Frodo Baggins energy to us. And maybe Jeffrey is Gollum. No, precious. Sorry, Jeffrey, I love you.
And I think to that point, yeah, the dragons are, and this is part of like some of the story. I know why the dragons are smaller, and like the issue is that it's also partly a spoiler. So basically, the dragons become smaller on purpose because of the way they're treated. So like dragons are similar to the way that lizards are and crocodiles are. Like one of the things I found out about crocodiles is that they grow to their surroundings. So like if you put a crocodile in a bathtub, it will be the size of the bathtub. If you take that crocodile, put it in like, let's say the River Nile, it will grow to be like maybe 7 or 8 meters long. So I think the same thing is with dragons, is that if they are, and also you have to think about the dragons in Game of Thrones are pretty young. They're less than 10 years old, actually, yeah. And usually like with dragons live like 4 or 500 years old.
Well, I don't know, because like, Balerion the Dread is like, although Balerion the Dread was like the biggest one, he, I assume it was a he, was the last living thing to see Valyria before its doom. So then basically the whole story of the Targaryens is one of them had like this vision that there'd be a doom of Valyria.
I think it might have been Aegon's mother, I think, maybe, or Aegon himself.
No, actually, I think it was further back, because basically the Targaryens had been on Dragonstone for a little while. Like, not just like they just flew over to Dragonstone. Yeah. Doom just happens. Like, oh, okay, well, let's go invade Westeros. I think they'd been there for a little while, but maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong.
But I believe you're right, yeah.
So he's like, I think Balyrion's like hundreds of years old, but then I don't know how old I feel like that, yeah, you're right, those dragons are quite young, because you know how they get given a dragon's egg in their cradle, the Targaryens, like Daemon wanted to do that in episode 2. I guess they're not that old, because if they're going to grow to like hundreds of years old, they're just going to outgrow. I think they do always outgrow their riders, because they're human beings, the Targaryens still, so they only live till like average medieval age for a royal family.
If they're lucky, 60, 70.
Yeah, whilst the commoner in Game of Thrones, like
35.
That's old age 35, and you get like a splinter and you get the plague and you just drop dead. Oh man, I'd never want to live in medieval Europe. Like, if Game of Thrones is somewhat of a depiction of it, plus dragons, then
that's one of the things that I think Game of Thrones really does show you, is that medieval Europe was hell for the poor.
Yeah, exactly. They're not even mentioned. Yeah. You remember kings and queens and
100%
popes. That's it.
Like even like the way that's the like, you just look at the messenger in the last episode. Like all he's doing is delivering a message, and he's almost beaten to death.
And the funny thing is he's like, sorry, my lord, sorry. Sorry, he's getting beaten up. And if he hits back, he gets executed.
Yeah,
exactly. Like
he's like, sorry, my lord, my face was in the way of fate. My face was in the way of your fist. That's why it's that type of thing.
Forgive me, my lord. Forgive me. I know. I feel like I'd be, if I was living in a medieval era, I'd definitely be either a jester at court, I'd be a commoner that just gets executed very quickly.
I think maybe that's why some people like joined like either like the clergy or decided to go like into monastic orders, because then you're kind of like away from you're kind of like out of the purview of the kingdom. So like the king can like tell you what to do, but then you being like if like being a maester, the king can't just execute you on the spot, because you still have a form of position within the maesters. He then has to go to Old Town and then say that this maester's awful, can I execute him? But if you're not a maester, it's literally, you pissed me off, you're getting your head chopped off.
Yeah, true. But I feel like that's like a distance thing, because like you see that if you in the books, like it's kind of difficult for the Targaryens to enforce their reign all over Westeros in a way. Like, for example, the Dornish don't join the 7 kingdoms straight away. Well, it was probably 6 kingdoms back then, because Dorne isn't part of it. But I can't remember what they called it back then. But and then with Old Town, there's always that tension room, because Old Town is the oldest. We spoke about this when we were talking about Game of Thrones and we were researching things. Old Town is like the oldest city in Westeros. Sorry, that's such mansplaining there. Like, I didn't need to do that. But yeah, and so the High Towers kind of are a bit bitter because the Tyrells are their liege lords, and because of that, they it's because the Targaryens basically deposed them when they united all the kingdoms. They went around conquering Aegon the Conqueror. The Targaryens deposed them, and they made the Tyrells the lords of the Reach, and therefore the Hightowers were knocked down a position to become the liege, to have Tyrells as their liege lords. So this is why Otto Hightower is a scheming bastard, because one, he's a second son, so any status he get is just what he can take for himself.
Yeah.
Also, the Hightowers want to, like, I guess, make Hightower great again in their own fucked up way. So again, another plot like that, and I do love. I think he's quite an underrated character, Otto Hightower. Like, just some of the things he said, like, the gods yet to make a man who doesn't thirst for absolute power.
Yeah. And I think you kind of like feel like, oh, is he going to be a straight? I think he's just so subtle.
Yeah,
like
he is.
We used to having like more characters in Game of Thrones, like who are so blatantly obvious with their scheming sometimes, but for him, the subtleness to get his daughter married to the king was like subtle that he didn't see it, and no one saw it coming. Like literally no one. And I don't even think she thought it was that he would pick her as to be his queen and his future wife.
Maybe, yeah. And then there's also, because remember in episode 2 where people think I should marry was it Lena Valerion, who was 12, and everyone was saying, an excellent match, Your Grace. And even he said that. Yeah, that's so subtle, because I guess if he probably thought if I say something against it, it's going to look like I'm trying to do something for my own end, because he's secretly sending his daughter to go chat with the king. Yeah. So yeah, he was playing it quite slyly there. Yeah, you're right. He was playing the sneakiest game of all. I don't think I would have been that discreet.
And that's why I think like Prince Damon sees him for who he is, and that's why he was like, yeah, he's a cunt basically, because the fact that he plays such a he.
Oh my god!
It's like he plays like such a like a schemer. Like I think like he does stuff like with the Tywin Lannister would be proud of.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Tywin would probably pimp out. Well, he kind of did pimp out Cersei, didn't he? He gave over to Robert rather than.
And before Robert, he pimped him out to Rhaegar as well, but then was rejected there, and then was pissed, and then decided to betray the king, and then murder Rhaegar's 2 children and his wife.
Oh my god! Yeah, you killed her. You killed her children. Yeah, and the sand snake, sand viper, absolutely, a red viper, absolutely murks the mountain. But then the mountain. Well, that's why you should always wear a helmet, folks.
Yeah, and not get cocky in a fight. Just finish it. Yeah. All he had to do was, when he was down, finish it.
Same in House of the Dragon when Daemon was fighting Kristen Cole and he had him on the floor. He's like, turns out, I was like, oh, yeah, big man. And then, well, Kristen shows him why he shouldn't have done that and smacks him in the back with a mace. That was jokes in episode 2. Because funny enough, I had watched episode 2 3 times because when this episode 3 came out, went over to my friend's place on Monday to watch it. They were like, "Oh, I haven't watched episode 2 yet. Do you mind if we watch it?" Like, it's a good episode, but it's a slow one. And there's a bit in it where Otto, when they confront Daemon on the bridge in Dragonstone, and he's like, "Welcome to Dragonstone, Otto," and he turns around to Kristen Cole's like, "Sir Crispin, was it?" And he's like, sorry, I can't remember your name. And he turns around and says, "Perhaps my lord would recall when I knocked him off his horse." And Daemon, being quite like the witty man, was like, "Yeah, touche,
fair play."
Yeah, and I was like, good, that was good. He probably would have beaten the shit out of him if he had a chance. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the episode that's going to come up, so episode 4, I think it's going to be possibly Rhaenyra's relationship with her uncle.
Spoilers!
And potentially the fact that you could see them either fall out because...
Spoilers!
She is still the heir.
Spoiler! Oh yeah, I mean, that's not a spoiler. I'll let you off.
And then also the fact that what is he going to do and react to his nephew and then also soon to be nephew/niece?
Do you think that he's going to kill them?
I think he's going to think about doing it, but I think he might not, because the king's still adamant that the princess is going to be queen and going to be the ruler of Westeros, So there is no real point to do that if she's still going to be queen. So I think most of his focus might be like, how do I then like get a better relationship with her? How do I then solidify her role as being queen? So that when the king does then end up dying, that people don't just like, yeah, he's dead now, we can go against his wishes and make his son to be king.
Probably in terms of like legal precedent, like when you've got one heir who's been chosen to be the heir, so Rhaenyra, but then you've got the other heir who should be the heir as well. That's double argument, times two. But then also the kids, who knows? Well, I think we're going to leave it there, folks. We've spoken about so much. We spoke about House of Dragons, spoke about Rings of Power, spoke about Marvel,
Disney, Star Wars.
Yeah, spoke about Harry Potter for a second, Yeah, Comics 101.
I think we got all of them covered there.
Yeah, I think I watched one of your Marvel ones the other day. I think we're going to put them out of a job, maybe, if we take that over.
Yeah, and just to mention, so we don't forget, for DC fans, just remember that there will be. Have you seen the Batman film?
Yeah.
It's an amazing film. So any of you DC fans, we're not leaving you out of the whole Comics 101. So we've done the full circle.
Oh, good. Plugging that episode there. There you go. Listen out for the Batman episode. I do love the Batman. That's my favorite DC character. So I'll be tuning in for that one and possibly leaving horrible comments as well. I'll downvote you. Okay. Well, that's the end of the episode, and I just want to say thank you so much, Josh.
You're welcome.
Genuinely, also for organizing this studio space as well. This is so cool, and I want to do this again.
Definitely.
I can see ourselves doing even other podcasts here on different topics. Holy cow! And to our wonderful audience as well. Can't do it without you guys. And if you want to hear the full episode, make sure you're subscribed to our Patreon page, which will be linked down below if you're on YouTube. If you want to hear more from us, the Two Maesters, then make sure you subscribe to the channel or follow us on the podcast on whatever listening platform you're using. Also, follow all the other ones we mentioned. See, we've been plugging everything today. If you like the video, a like and a comment are always appreciated. And make sure you click the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Well, thank you so much for being a wonderful audience, and stay classy. Bye-bye.
See you.